Naturally Cinnamon here. Well, episode 2 of the Resilience Rising podcast. And as I continue to get things organized and together, I'm actually pretty excited because we are currently on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and this new app that I found called Anchor. So I'm kind of playing around with that, seeing what that's all about and what I can do with that, what the features are there. And then, of course, on YouTube. So, as promised, I'm going to just jump right in. But first, let me share with you a funny joke. I'm not an early riser. I am so not an early riser. I hate any time I have to wake up super early in the morning. And to me, super early in the morning is anything before 6:30 a.m. It's just early. I hate it. My body reacts. My stomach does flips. It just, I hate it. Well, this morning I got up super early in the morning, more like I think the alarm went off at 4:45, something like that. So I actually got out of bed closer to 5 o'clock because I got jury duty summons. So I wanted to, for those of you who live in South Dade County, South Miami-Dade County, I wanted to take the Metro Rail up to the court. Well, I got to the Metro Rail station. I got up, got ready, got dressed, got out of the house, got some breakfast, got on the road. And I got to the Metro Rail station and I was like, oh, shoot, I never called the little, automated number that you have to call in. So I called the automated number while I was still sitting in the car, only to find that although the printed summons said today's date, the actual report date for me is tomorrow. So I put it in reverse and hightailed it back home. So now I'm home, but I'm awake and I'm like, I got up early for nothing. But that was my fault. I should have checked when they told us to check. They tell you to call the weekend before. I didn't call the weekend before, so I'll take the L on that one. Anywho, thank you for those that have already been sharing and listening to and liking the podcast. The first episode, like I said, was just introductory. It was just to let you know who I am, what the podcast, that there is a podcast. And it was also something I could put out so that I could go ahead and attach myself to the other podcasting media outlets. So that was cool, and I appreciate everybody for all of their support so far. Please be sure to share with your friends, to subscribe to the podcast, to subscribe to my YouTube page, to, leave comments, etc. But as I brought up to you before, one of the things that I do one of the things that I'm starting to do, one of the things I'm doing differently is to walk in my truth and own my stuff. And one of the things that I'm owning and walking in is the fact that I do have clinical depression. I am diagnosed with clinical depression. And I want to share with you how I got diagnosed, like what led up to me actually sitting with a therapist and receiving that diagnosis. But I also want to share with you something that happened to me over this weekend that I was so mentally and emotionally drained and didn't realize it until physically my body gave out. So I'll start with this weekend and then I'll go back, because that's a much shorter story, and then I'll go back to what happened in 2007. Well, this past weekend, actually last week, there were a series of events that were unplanned, and, I had to deal with those and help someone else deal with those. And when all was said and done, I was tired. I was physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and I didn't really realize how exhausted I was because I was paying more attention to the other person, because what actually happened to them, and I was really like being a support system for them, but I didn't realize how exhausted I was. So I just kept going, and I just kept going for their sake until I think it was Saturday morning, I was just like, I'm tired. And I was just like, wow, I'm tired. But I can't, and I think I said that or I posted on Facebook, wow, I'm really tired. And somebody was like, well, just stay home and rest. And I told him, I said, I can't. I have an obligation today. I have a pretty big obligation today. My god sister's baby shower was that day. And my godson is in her womb right now, and I'm really excited. And I was hosting the baby shower, and I really, really, really could not. There was no way. I was just missing it. Was just not an option. So I mustered up all the energy that I didn't know I was missing, and I went, and it was a great time. I had a great time. The couple, my godson's parents, both of them, they had a great time. The family had a great time. And it was wonderful. Well, what no one knew was that as I was walking back to my car, my feet were in such pain. They started burning and my legs got kind of weak, I guess. And I remember making it to the car. I remember getting in the car. And thank God someone else was driving, because I don't remember getting out the parking lot. And they told me later I was asleep in the car. We didn't even get out of the parking lot, and I was asleep. And then I got home, and I didn't go to sleep when I got home immediately, but I just kind of zoned out. I was really tired, and I didn't really do anything else for the rest of the weekend that required anything of me. I didn't do any business. I didn't do, I spent some time with a friend of mine and her daughter, who it was her 16th birthday that day, and it wasn't anything major because she's having the sweet 16 in a couple of weeks. So that day was just kind of, relatively quiet. And I think I needed that. I think I needed to be away from home. I think I needed to just be with a friend, doing nothing and having nothing required of me. Nobody needed anything of me. And it was Super Bowl Sunday, so no one was calling. It was good. But yeah, I was physically exhausted. And that brings me to something I usually tell people when I try to describe what it's like to live with depression. I usually say this: people who don't have anything going on, like they're just pretty, what would be considered normal, whatever that may be to you or whoever else. But people who don't have a lot going on physically or mentally, and they, get a good night's sleep, the whole 8 hours or whatever, however many hours you need to feel refreshed. They get that sleep and they wake up the next morning, and let's say you wake up with 100% of your energy, like you were cell phone charging overnight and you got 100% battery for the next day before you actually unplug your phone. So let's say you wake up with 100%. All right, great, fine. You wake up with 100%. And then you use a little bit of energy as you're getting dressed for your day. So maybe by the time you get out of the house, you're at 97, 96%. And then depending on how you feel with traffic, I personally hate traffic, but that's me. I know people who traffic doesn't bother them. So depending on however much energy you spend arguing in traffic, or how long it takes for you to get to where you're going, be it work or whatever your obligation may be for that day, or whatever it is you have to do, whether you have kids that you have to get ready and get them to school, whether whatever it is that you're doing during the morning, by the time you leave the house or by the time you get to your destination, let's say on average, you're probably at about 85 or 90%. With someone with depression, let's just say we wake up at 100%. It may take, by the time we get out of bed, it may take so much energy just to get out of bed that by the time we get dressed and leave our house, we might be on 60% already. Like, I've already spent that much energy just trying to get out of the house. Now I have to go to work or family stuff or whatever my daily obligation is for that day. And I've got to spend a whole lot more energy, more, basically the point is we spend more energy just trying to do regular stuff than other people who don't deal with what we deal with. And so it takes a lot of energy, which means we have to recuperate a lot more often and maybe spend more time recuperating than other people who don't have to deal with what we deal with, who don't go through what we go through. And that's what I usually say to people who ask me, my gosh, you sleep so much. And I'm like, I actually don't sleep as much as you think I do. Like, I don't take naps during the day like I would like to. And I don't, I save all my sleep to the nighttime. So I sleep at night. I sleep really hard because I save I push out energy that I probably don't have. I force it. I make it come from somewhere and give it out. And I give it. And then I go home. And I'm done. I'm depleted. But see, I run 3 businesses. So when I get home, I can't just put my feet up in front of the TV and catch up on my DVR and do other. I can't do that. I got work to do. I literally have work to do. Anytime, whenever you see me, I'm working. Whenever you don't see me, I'm working. And so when I do get to a chance to go to sleep, oh, I'm pissed off when somebody interrupts my sleep. I'm actually angry. So yeah, that's kind of how I try to describe it. And so that's my segue from how tired I was over the weekend, because I expelled a lot more energy than I thought I did. I thought I was controlling my energy, but I wasn't. And I bottomed out. I depleted. But I wasn't even home when I depleted. Again, thank goodness that someone else was driving. And there are times when, if you are someone who suffers with depression or who deals with depression, or who, however you want to phrase it, whatever phrase feels most comfortable for you. To me, I just say I live with it. It's a big, I'm not making it a big deal in my life. I'm choosing not to make it a big deal in my life, but it is what it is. And I'm going to own what it is and accept what it is. And it is that I live with depression. And what I do is I have to monitor my energy levels. How much energy am I giving to something? How much energy am I giving? If something's coming up that I'm going to be required to give it a whole lot of energy, then I need to monitor how much energy I give to other things as it leads up to that major energy event. I have to be mindful of where my energy goes. I have to put my energy on a budget sometimes. I have to do that because I can't just at 2:00 in the afternoon while I'm at work decide, I don't feel like it, or I can't in the midst of a session with a client be like, look, I'm tired. Like, I can't do that. That's not an option for me. That's not an option I'm going to take. So I have to monitor my energy. And I learned that somewhere around 2014, 2015. Well, here's the thing. I was diagnosed with clinical depression in 2007. So it was a few years before I had to start learning how to operate on a daily basis. I had learned what to do, what works for me when I get into deep depressive states. I call them waves. When I have to ride a huge depression wave, I kind of learned how to send up the bat signal to my mom, to my parents, to my boyfriend, to one of my close friends. They kind of, I'm not going to say they know what to do, but they understand what it looks like when I go through that. And I'm not questioned about it. I'm not judged for it. So that's why I just share it with them when I ride through those waves. But in 2007, January 4th, actually, 2007, I had gotten some news that, I was already stressed out. I was in college, senior year in college. Actually, the last semester of my senior year in college. I was about to graduate with my bachelor's, and I was under a little bit of stress because it was like, you either got to get a job or get your master's. Which one are you going to do? There were some things in my personal life and that needed my attention, and I couldn't put them off anymore. It's just, a lot of stuff going on. And here comes this crushing blow of news that people I had in my support system, people that I thought were in my support network, had gotten together on some series of phone calls, and something had gone down, and based on something went down that I had nothing to do with. I didn't even know it was happening, but somewhere in the series of phone calls between this group of people, they all agreed, let's put it on Cinnamon. Cinnamon actually had something to do with it. And so let's go ahead and do that. And the conversations or series of conversations came down to causing a split between me and a couple of family members that were like my mentors, my role models. And that just crushed it. That just crushed it. On top of the stress that I'm feeling, I knew I could always count on my support system, where the support system just fell from up under me. And I was just like, well, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to, by do this, I mean, I don't want to do this life. This life sucks. And I'm over it. I'm done. And I had a Mitsubishi Eclipse at the time. And I was on a winding road, like kind of country road. So it was some trees and brush, on the sides of some of the roads, or some of the winds, some of the curves. And I just decided to put the pedal to the metal. I'm done with this. Let's just, I can't swim. So even if I miss the tree and end up in the water, I'll be gone anyway because I can't swim. So let's do it. It's a foolproof plan. So I floored it in that Mitsubishi Eclipse. I pushed that pedal all the way down as far as it could go. And when I tell you that sports car would not accelerate, it did not accelerate. I mean that. It did not accelerate. And I remember being angry that my plan did not work. I remember being angry. I mean, I was so mad that it didn't work because I really did not want to still be here dealing with the foolishness, with the shenanigans. And so I just was like, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm finna leave this earth. And my car was like, no, you're not. And I was mad at the car. I'm like, how dare you not accelerate? How dare you not do what I'm telling you to do so that I could do what I want to do? Yeah, I was really upset. And so I got to it was a park. And so I pulled over into the parking area of the park and I just cried. I just remember crying. And I called a good friend of mine at the time. And when he answered the phone, he didn't even hear me. He answered the phone, "What's wrong? Where are you?" It was like he knew in that moment something big was going on. And I don't know, he convinced me to talk to my academic advisor, which I did, who convinced me to talk to the program director, which I did. Well, the program director told me, I'm pulling you out of your classes. You need to deal with yourself. And I was like, no, you're not pulling me out of my classes. I need to graduate this semester. And she said, well, if I'm going to leave you in your classes, you have to go to the counseling center that's on campus. And of course, I said, what counseling center? I didn't know there was a counseling center. She said, you have to go to the counseling center on campus and you have to bring me back proof that you've been going every week. Okay, whatever. It's probably some little grad student or something. I'll just go get the credit so I can get everybody to shut up and get off my back. And I can continue to keep this from my parents because I had not told them anything. I hadn't told my brother. I hadn't told any family member. I was just like, I don't want to tell. Fine. If I just have to run over to this and it's not out, it's when I go to school anyway. So whatever, fine. I'll do it. And I went to this counseling center and yeah, it was a grad student, but she was pretty good. She was pretty good. And the counseling center referred me to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist, of course, prescribed me some medication. The medication made me kind of loopy. Of course, I was happy, but I was loopy. And to this day, I was on that medication about a month and a half, tops, 6 weeks tops. I don't remember nothing that happened while I was on that medication. So I just took myself off. I was just like, nope, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to take this. But after that, I just kind of learned how to mask it. I learned masking very well. I learned how to mask, put the mask on. Look, I'm better. I'm okay. Everything's fine. I learned how to do that until about 2009 when it hit again. It hit, and that's when I went to my mom and I was like, I have something I need to tell you. And she helped me find a therapist. And let me tell you, that's when things started to turn around. That's when life started to change. Somewhere around, I think it was like July, August 2009 when I started going to that therapist. And I still see her from time to time, when I need to. But at that time, I was going faithfully like every week. And then I did that for a few months to see her every week until we put like a maintenance plan together. And I'll see her maybe once a year, more if I need to, if it's gotten really, really bad. But she really, really, really helped. I mean, she is gifted in what she does. She is a great therapist. And yeah, so that's the short version of my story of how I became diagnosed with clinical depression. So yeah, there's that. We'll have other questions. I like sometimes to ask people if you've ever encountered someone who has desired to take their life and they've had the courage to actually say it to someone. It's like, I think I want to take my life. I always ask people, how does that make you feel? Like, what do you think about? Because a lot of times people think that they have to have something to say to that person. Not always. You don't always have to have a response for them. So anyway, as promised, I promised that I'd share my story on how I got diagnosed or when I got diagnosed with clinical depression. And there was that. And in the therapy sessions, we went back so far that she helped me realize that we both think that my onset started somewhere around 2001 with the death of my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, and not knowing how to process the grief, because that was actually the first really close to my heart, close to my soul passing of someone in my family. And there have been other family members that have passed away prior to that, but they weren't super duper close to me. And I wasn't like attached to them. I was attached to all of my grandparents. And that was the first kind of soul shaking experience of grief. And because I had no idea what it was, I did not handle it, I guess, very well. And so she believes that could have possibly been the onset of some of the depressive symptoms and depressive feelings. So yeah, I am an advocate of therapy. I'm a therapist, but I'm now a therapist, but I am an advocate of therapy because it truly does help. It does help. So anyway, I'm not going to ramble any further. Naturally Cinnamon, thank you again for listening to the Resilience Rising podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, of course, you can leave a comment. You can also email me at cinnamon@jamilawellness.org, and I will get your email that way. Or you can send a text or leave a voicemail at 786-479-2466. I'm going to say that again because I said that number wrong. 786-475-2466. That's the right number. So yeah, thank you again for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.